The night was darker than usual, thick clouds swallowing the moon above the empty countryside. The sound of metal clanging echoed faintly across the rail yard. A train horn cried in the distance, low, haunting, and final. Anna Collins, 7 months pregnant, struggled against the ropes cutting into her wrists. The cold steel of the railroad track pressed against her back. Her heart pounded so violently that she thought her baby could feel it too. "David, please, stop this," she screamed, her voice trembling in both fear and disbelief. Her husband stood just a few feet away, his face half lit by the train's growing light. He wasn't crying, he wasn't shaking. His expression was calm, terrifyingly calm. The man she had once called her love now looked like a stranger carved from ice. "You made it too hard, Anna," David said, his voice steady. "You couldn't just trust me, could you? Always snooping, always questioning. You brought this on yourself." Anna shook her head violently. "We're going to be a family. Please, think of the baby." "The baby?" He laughed, a hollow sound that pierced the cold air. "That's exactly why I have to do this. You and that baby will ruin everything." The sound of the approaching train grew louder, vibrating the ground beneath them. Anna's tears mixed with the dirt and oil on her face as she twisted, trying desperately to loosen the rope. Her body ached, every breath short and sharp. "David, please. You don't have to do this. We can fix everything." He crouched beside her, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and whispered, "You'll be free soon." Then he stood up, stepped off the tracks, and disappeared into the darkness. The rumble of the train became deafening now. The rails beneath her began to tremble. The blinding light grew larger, closer, unstoppable. Anna screamed until her voice cracked. She thought of her mother, her unborn baby, the life she'd never get to live. The tears ran faster as she whispered a prayer. "Please God, not like this." And then, through the roar of the train came another sound, a voice, a man shouting from somewhere nearby. "Hey, somebody's on the tracks! Stop the train!" A loud metallic screech tore through the night as the brakes slammed. Sparks exploded against the rails, lighting the air like falling stars. Anna felt her world spin. She closed her eyes, waiting for the impact that never came. Silence. Only the hiss of steam, the smell of hot iron. A flashlight beam cut through the dark, landing on her trembling face. A man in a yellow safety jacket ran toward her, his eyes wide in shock. "Ma'am, don't move! I've got you!" he shouted, reaching for his knife to cut the rope. Anna gasped for air, her vision blurry. Who are you?" The man crouched beside her, breathing hard. "My name's Tom. You're safe now." But behind them, somewhere in the trees, footsteps echoed, slow and deliberate. Someone was still watching. 3 months earlier, the Collins house looked like a dream from a glossy magazine. Morning sunlight spilled through tall windows, painting the marble floor in gold. Anna hummed softly while setting the breakfast table, scrambled eggs, toast, and a glass of orange juice. Her hands rested over her belly, feeling the tiny kicks inside. Every movement reminded her of the little life she and David had created. David walked downstairs in his tailored suit, phone pressed to his ear. He was always talking to someone, business partners, investors, or maybe just pretending to be busy. Anna smiled anyway. "Good morning, honey. Sit down, you'll be late." He nodded absently, not looking at her. "Yeah, big meeting today. Don't wait up for lunch." She tried to hide her disappointment. "I was hoping we could visit the clinic together for the ultrasound." David's eyes flickered, then softened. "Next week, I promise." He kissed her forehead too quickly to mean anything, then grabbed his briefcase and left. The door clicked shut, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than before. Anna stood still for a moment, staring at the untouched breakfast. She wanted to believe him. She always did. But lately, something inside her whispered that the man she loved wasn't really there anymore. Later that afternoon, while doing laundry, Anna heard his phone buzz on the counter. A message flashed on the screen. "Can't stop thinking about last night." Same hotel? It was signed with a single heart. Grace. Her breath caught. Grace Miller, David's secretary. The young, pretty one who always smiled too brightly at him. Anna's fingers trembled as she placed the phone down. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Grace was joking. Maybe she wasn't. That night, David came home late, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't hers. He kissed her cheek and said, "Sorry, work ran long." Anna forced a smile. "It's fine." But her stomach twisted. In bed, she lay awake while he slept beside her. His breathing was steady, peaceful. She turned to face him, studying his features. The man she thought she knew. The same man who held her hand at their wedding, who promised to love her in sickness and in health. Now, he felt like a stranger lying inches away. The next morning, Anna called her best friend, Megan. "I think David's cheating on me," she whispered, voice breaking. "Anna, don't jump to conclusions," Megan said softly. "You're pregnant, hormones make you sensitive, talk to him first." Anna nodded. Though she knew the truth deep down, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. The tired eyes, the pale skin, the quiet fear. She promised herself she'd confront him soon after the ultrasound. Outside, rain began to fall, tapping gently against the window pane. Anna touched her belly again and whispered, "No matter what happens, I'll protect you." That night, when David came home, his phone rang again. He glanced at the screen, smirked slightly, then turned it face down. Anna saw the name glowing for a brief second, Grace Miller, and for the first time, she knew her nightmare had just begun. For the next few days, Anna tried to convince herself she was overreacting. Maybe Grace's message was a misunderstanding. Maybe David really was busy with work. But no matter how many times she repeated those thoughts, the unease in her heart refused to fade. Every time David left the house, he avoided eye contact. He'd say, "Late meeting again," or "Client dinner, don't wait up." His tone was polite but cold. Anna noticed how he now kept his phone on silent, face down even during breakfast. One evening she tried to hug him as he walked through the door. He stiffened. "Anna, please," he said, pulling away. "I'm exhausted." Her smile faltered. "I just wanted to say good night." "I need a shower," he muttered, disappearing upstairs. The walls of their perfect home suddenly felt like a prison, shiny, cold, and full of secrets. 2 days later, Anna followed him. She didn't plan it. Her hands shook as she clutched the car's steering wheel, driving slowly behind his black sedan. He didn't notice. He was too busy on his phone, laughing softly, something he hadn't done with her in months. He stopped at the Harbor View Hotel. The neon sign flickered in the gray afternoon light. Anna parked a block away and watched from her car as David stepped out, adjusted his tie, and waited near the entrance. Minutes later, Grace appeared, young, blonde, wearing a red dress. She smiled, touched his arm, and they walked inside together. Anna's stomach churned. The air left her lungs like she'd been punched. Tears blurred her vision, but she grabbed her phone. Her fingers trembled as she raised it and snapped a photo. The two of them walking into the hotel hand in hand. She didn't even realize she was crying until she tasted the salt on her lips. Back home, she stared at the photo on her screen. Proof. Real, undeniable proof. She could confront him now, make him tell the truth. But what then? Would he leave her? Would he take everything? The house, the baby's future? Her heart screamed for justice, but her body shook with fear. She wanted to call her mother, to cry in her arms, but she couldn't. Her mother had always loved David, always said, "You're lucky to have such a responsible man." Anna turned off the lights and sat in the dark, the phone glowing in her hands. Her baby kicked softly, as if sensing her pain. She whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here. Mommy won't let anything happen to you." The next morning, when David returned, she watched him from across the table. He smiled faintly, poured himself coffee, and said, "Everything okay?" Anna looked up from her cup, eyes calm but distant. "Yes," she said quietly. "Everything's fine." Inside, her heart was breaking, but her mind was waking up. She realized the man across from her wasn't just unfaithful, he was dangerous. And deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of something far darker. The days after that were painfully quiet. The house that once echoed with laughter now carried only the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock on the wall. David moved through it like a ghost, present but unreachable. Anna tried to hold on to some normalcy. She cooked his favorite meals, played soft music, and asked about his day. But David's replies were short, dry, mechanical. "Fine. Busy. Don't worry about it." Each word built another wall between them. One night, Anna waited for him to come home. The dinner on the table had gone cold. When the clock struck midnight, the door finally opened. David stepped in, his tie loosened, his eyes glazed with fatigue or guilt. "Where were you?" Anna asked softly. "Work," he said flatly. "I called your office. They said you left at 7. He looked at her, irritation flashing in his eyes. So now you're checking up on me? I'm just worried, David. You've been distant. You don't talk to me anymore. He sighed and dropped his briefcase on the floor. Anna, you're pregnant, emotional, and imagining things. You need rest, not drama. Her throat tightened. Drama? I'm your wife. He turned toward her, voice sharp. Exactly. So stop acting like a detective. For a moment silence hung heavy between them. Anna felt her baby kick as if reminding her to stay calm. She swallowed her anger and whispered, I miss you. David stared at her belly for a second, then looked away. Don't wait up next time, he muttered before disappearing upstairs. That night, Anna cried quietly into her pillow. She wanted to scream, to break something, but she couldn't. She had to stay strong for her child. The next morning, she found David in the kitchen, scrolling through his phone. His face was cold, unreadable. She tried to smile. Good morning. He looked up briefly. Morning. She reached for the coffee pot, but he stopped her. You shouldn't be doing that in your condition. His concern sounded hollow. She knew better. He wasn't worried. He was controlling. He wanted her to stay quiet, predictable, blind. When he left for work, Anna sat at the table, staring at the cup he'd left behind. A small lipstick stain marked the rim. It wasn't hers. Her hands began to tremble. She grabbed the cup, threw it into the sink, and covered her face. She couldn't deny it anymore. David wasn't just unfaithful, he was cruel. That evening, she made a decision. She would confront him, not with anger, but with calm. She would look him in the eye and demand the truth. When he came home, she stood in the living room, holding her phone. The photo of him and Grace glowed on the screen. David, she said quietly, we need to talk. He froze for a second. His eyes darted to the phone, then to her face. Where did you get that? He asked, his voice low. Anna's heart pounded, but she met his gaze. I followed you. His jaw tightened. You shouldn't have done that, Anna. The air between them grew colder. She felt a chill run down her spine as he stepped closer, his tone soft but dangerous. Some secrets, he whispered, are better left buried. And in that moment, Anna realized the man before her wasn't just hiding an affair, he was hiding something far more sinister. The night air in the Collins house felt heavier than ever. Anna stood frozen, gripping her phone, the picture of David and Grace still glowing on the screen. Her voice trembled. How long, David? How long have you been lying to me? David's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Does it matter? Tears welled in her eyes. You're my husband, I deserve the truth. He sighed, walked to the bar, and poured himself a glass of whiskey. Fine. You want honesty? I was bored, Anna. You stopped being fun. All you talk about is the baby, the house, the bills. I needed something exciting. Her heart sank. Exciting? You mean cheating? He shrugged, swirling the glass in his hand. Call it what you want. Grace understands me. She doesn't nag. She doesn't cry. Anna stepped back as if his words were bullets. I loved you. I gave you everything. David took a slow sip, his eyes glinting coldly. And now you'll give me something else. Peace. The way he said it sent chills through her. What do you mean? He didn't answer. He just smiled. A small, terrifying smile. Then he set his glass down and walked upstairs, leaving her trembling in the silence. Anna stood there for a long time, staring at the floor, trying to breathe. She felt her baby move again, gentle but insistent, as if reminding her that she couldn't fall apart. Not now. The next day she called Grace. Her hands shook as she pressed the phone to her ear. To her surprise, Grace answered, sounding calm and amused. Anna, how sweet of you to call, Grace said. Stay away from my husband, Anna snapped. Grace laughed softly. Oh, honey, I think it's too late for that. Maybe you should worry less about me and more about him. What's that supposed to mean? But Grace had already hung up. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, her mind replaying Grace's words over and over. Worry more about him. What did she mean? At 2 a.m., she heard voices coming from David's office downstairs. She tiptoed quietly down the stairs and pressed her ear to the door. Once she's gone, everything transfers to me, David was saying. His voice was low but clear. A pause, then Grace's voice replied, Are you sure it'll look like an accident? Yes, I've planned everything. She's fragile, emotional. It'll be easy to convince everyone she took her own life. Anna's hand flew to her mouth to stop the scream rising in her throat. She stumbled backward, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out the rest of the conversation. She ran upstairs, grabbed her phone, and called 911. but then stopped. What could she say? That her husband might be planning something. Without proof, no one would believe her. She pressed a hand to her belly, whispering, "I'll protect you, I promise." Downstairs, the office door creaked open. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. "Anna?" David's voice floated up the stairs. "Are you awake?" She froze, heart racing, pretending to sleep as he entered the room. His shadow stretched across the wall, long and menacing. He stood by her bedside for a few seconds, watching her. Then he whispered softly, almost tenderly, "Soon, Anna. Very soon." And for the first time she knew, her husband wasn't just a cheater. He was planning to kill her. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows, but it didn't bring warmth. Anna sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes red and swollen. The words she'd overheard the night before echoed in her head like a nightmare on repeat. "He's going to kill me." She tried to think rationally. Maybe she'd misheard. Maybe David was talking about someone else. But the tone in his voice, that cold certainty, no, there was no mistake. He was planning to get rid of her. Downstairs, she heard the sound of clinking dishes. David was making breakfast, humming softly. The casual normalcy of it made her stomach twist. How could he act so calm after plotting her death? When she walked into the kitchen, he greeted her with a warm smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Morning, sweetheart. I made pancakes. You should eat something for the baby." Anna forced a nod. "Thanks." He watched her as she sat down. "You didn't sleep much, did you?" "I had some weird dreams," she said quietly, her fork shaking slightly. He leaned closer. "You've been so tense lately. You need a break." "A break?" "Yeah," he said, his tone light. "I was thinking, maybe we should take a little trip this weekend. Just the two of us. Fresh air, a quiet place to talk, no stress, no phones. It'll be good for us." Anna's heart skipped. It sounded like a romantic gesture, but she knew better. This was it. The trap. She swallowed hard. "That sounds nice." He smiled, satisfied. "Good. I've already booked a cabin out by the woods. There's a lake, hiking trails, everything you love." She smiled back weakly. Inside, panic spread like wildfire. She couldn't say no. If she refused, he'd know she suspected something. If she went, she might never come back. After he left for work, Anna ran upstairs, locked herself in the bathroom, and sobbed silently. She pressed both hands to her belly. "Mommy's here. Mommy's not going to let him hurt us." She thought about calling the police again, but what could she say? No physical proof, no witness. David was charming, respected, successful. Everyone saw him as the perfect husband. They'd never believe her. She opened her closet, pulled out an old box, and took out a small silver locket her mother had given her years ago. Inside was a photo of her parents, smiling. She whispered, "Please, give me strength." Later that evening, David came home carrying flowers. "For my beautiful wife," he said, handing them to her. Anna forced a smile, pretending gratitude. "They're lovely." He kissed her cheek, his touch sending shivers down her spine. "Pack light, okay? We'll leave Friday morning." That night, as she lay awake beside him, Anna stared at the ceiling, mind racing. She needed a plan, an escape, a way to survive whatever he had prepared. But exhaustion took over. Her eyes closed just as she heard him whisper in his sleep, "Once she's gone, it'll all be mine." Anna turned her face toward the wall, tears sliding down silently. And though the night was quiet, she knew it was the calm before something terrible, something she might not survive. Friday morning came wrapped in a false calm. The sky was clear, the air crisp, and David's smile unnervingly gentle. He carried their suitcases to the car, humming a tune as if they were newlyweds heading for a honeymoon instead of what he secretly planned, a murder disguised as an accident. Anna, clutching her small purse, looked at him with a faint smile. Inside her heart, fear pounded like thunder. She'd tucked her mother's locket into her pocket, a small reminder of courage, a silent promise to survive for her baby. The drive was long and winding. Miles of forest blurred past her window, tall pines whispering in the wind. David talked cheerfully about business deals and future plans, never once glancing at her with love. His words were smooth, but his eyes were empty. "You'll love the place," he said. "Quiet, peaceful, no one around for miles." Anna forced a nod. "Sounds perfect." Her voice barely came out. The thought of isolation terrified her. No one around for miles meant no one to hear her scream. As the sun began to set, they reached the cabin, a small wooden house beside an empty stretch of railway that cut through the trees. The irony made Anna's blood run cold. She couldn't explain why, but that sight, the tracks disappearing into darkness, made her body tremble. "Beautiful, isn't it?" David said, stepping out of the car. "Yes," she whispered, her throat dry. Inside, the cabin was simple but cozy. A fireplace crackled softly, and a faint smell of pine filled the air. David cooked dinner, pouring her a glass of water and himself a generous amount of whiskey. "To us," he said, raising his glass. Anna pretended to smile, clinking her water against his glass. "To us." But every sip burned her throat with dread. After dinner, he suggested a walk. "The air's amazing at night," he said, grabbing his jacket. "Let's go see the stars by the tracks." Anna hesitated. "Maybe later. I'm tired." He smiled, patient but cold. "Just a few minutes. You'll love it." She knew resistance was dangerous, so she nodded, following him out into the dark. The forest was eerily quiet, only the crunch of their footsteps breaking the silence. They stopped near the railway. David turned to her, his face barely visible in the dim moonlight. "You remember our wedding vows?" he asked softly. Anna nodded slowly. "Of course." He smiled faintly. "Till death do us part." Before she could react, his hand moved fast, grabbing her wrists, forcing her to the ground. The cold metal of the rail pressed into her back. "David, stop!" she screamed, but he ignored her, pulling a rope from his coat. Panic exploded inside her as he tied her wrists, his breath steady, emotionless. "You said you wanted peace," he murmured. "Now you'll have it." Tears streamed down her face. "David, please, I'm carrying your child." He hesitated for only a second. "I know," he whispered, "but it's the only way." The distant sound of a train horn broke the silence. Anna's heart stopped. The rumble grew louder. She thrashed, screamed, begged, but he stepped back, watching her with hollow eyes. "Goodbye, Anna," he said, turning away. And as the light of the train appeared through the trees, she realized the man she once loved had just signed her death sentence. The train's roar grew louder, shaking the earth beneath Anna's body. The steel rails vibrated, humming like a warning from fate itself. She screamed until her throat burned, twisting her wrists against the ropes cutting into her skin. The air smelled of iron and death. Her heart pounded so hard that it hurt. "Help!" she cried, her voice breaking. "Somebody, please!" But the forest around her stayed silent. Only the low rumble of the oncoming train answered back. David had vanished into the trees, his figure swallowed by the darkness. He didn't even look back. Anna fought with everything she had, kicking, rolling, trying to loosen the knots. Her belly ached, and her breath came in sharp, panicked bursts. "Please, God, please not my baby," she sobbed. Then, through the deafening sound of the train, she heard something else, a voice shouting in the distance. A man's voice. "Hey, someone's on the tracks, stop the train." Her eyes widened. Headlights from the engine blinded her, but then came the screech of brakes, so loud it pierced her skull. Sparks burst against the rails like fireflies gone mad. The train shuddered, slowing, screaming against the metal. When it finally stopped, steam hissed into the night, clouding everything in a white fog. Anna lay still, too weak to move, until she heard hurried footsteps pounding toward her. A flashlight beam cut through the mist. A man appeared, a railway worker in a yellow safety vest, his face pale with shock. "Oh my God," he breathed. "Don't move, ma'am. I've got you." He knelt beside her, pulling a knife from his belt to cut the ropes. His hands were trembling. "You're safe now, I promise." Anna gasped for air, her voice trembling. He tied me, my husband. Easy," the man said gently, slicing through the last knot. "You're bleeding. We need to get you off the tracks." She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her abdomen. "The baby, please, save my baby." He hesitated for a second, then lifted her carefully in his arms, cradling her as if she were made of glass. "You're both going to be okay," he said firmly, though his voice cracked with worry. They moved away from the rails just as the train's engineer jumped down, yelling, "What the hell happened out here?" "I found her tied up," the man shouted back. "Call the police, now!" Anna's head lolled against his chest. The world was spinning. Her ears rang, her vision blurring in and out. Who are you?" she whispered weakly. "Tom," he said, tightening his grip to keep her steady. "My name's Tom Reed. I work maintenance on this line." "Tom," she murmured, her voice fading. "He tried to kill me." Tom looked around the dark woods, his flashlight sweeping over the shadows. The trees swayed, but there was movement, something more. Leaves rustled, branches cracked. Tom froze, his hand instinctively going for his radio. "Who's there?" he called out. No answer. Only the echo of his own voice ping back from the forest. Anna's fingers gripped his sleeve weakly. "He's still here." Tom's jaw tightened. "Not for long," he said, guiding her toward the stopped train. Behind them, deep in the woods, a pair of eyes glinted faintly under the moonlight. David hadn't gone far, and he was watching every step they took. Anna woke to the sterile smell of disinfectant and the rhythmic beeping of machines. Her eyes blinked open to the blinding white of a hospital ceiling. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then everything came rushing back. The tracks, the ropes, the train, David's cold eyes. She gasped and sat up abruptly. Pain shot through her belly, sharp and immediate. A nurse hurried over, gently pressing her shoulders down. "Easy, honey. You're safe now. You're in the hospital." "My baby," Anna whispered, clutching her stomach. The nurse smiled softly. "The baby's okay. You're both very lucky." Tears filled Anna's eyes. "He tried to kill us," she said, her voice cracking. "My husband, he tied me to the tracks." The nurse froze for a second, then offered a cautious smile. "Let's not talk too much right now. You need rest." "No, please," Anna begged. "You have to call the police. His name is David Collins. He's dangerous." The nurse exchanged a glance with another staff member near the door. "The police have already been informed. Just relax, okay?" But something in her tone felt off, controlled, rehearsed. Moments later, the door opened and a man walked in, wearing a sharp suit and an expression of manufactured concern. It was David. Anna's heart stopped. "No," she whispered. He came closer, carrying a bouquet of lilies. "Anna, sweetheart," he said softly. "Thank God you're awake." She recoiled, shaking her head. "Get away from me." David frowned, setting the flowers on the bedside table. "Honey, please. You had an accident. You wandered off during the night. I've been so worried." "That's a lie," Anna cried, tears streaming down her face. "You tied me to the tracks. You left me there to die." The nurse hesitated by the door, uncertain. David turned to her smoothly. "She's been under a lot of stress lately. The pregnancy's been difficult." "I'm not crazy," Anna shouted. "He's lying. He tried to kill me." But David's calm voice carried more authority. "She's been seeing things, talking about conspiracies. Maybe it's postpartum anxiety setting in early." The nurse nodded sympathetically. "It happens sometimes." Anna's world tilted. "No, listen to me." She struggled to sit up, but her body was too weak. "Ask the man who saved me, Tom Reed. He saw everything." David's expression flickered for just a moment, then smoothed back into that cold, careful smile. "I've already spoken to the authorities. They said it's still unclear what happened, but I'm here now. I'll take care of you." "Don't touch me," she whispered, pulling the blanket up as if it could protect her. He leaned close, his breath brushing her ear. "If you tell anyone that story again, Anna, they'll take our baby away. Do you want that?" Her blood turned to ice. David straightened, smiling again for the nurse. "I think she needs rest. I'll come back later." As he walked out, Anna trembled uncontrollably. She turned to the nurse, desperate. "Please find Tom Reed. He saved my life. He knows I'm telling the truth." The nurse hesitated, then nodded. "I'll see what I can do." When the door closed, Anna curled up, clutching her stomach. Her tears soaked the pillow. Somewhere down the hall, David was talking to someone on his phone, his voice low and smooth. "Make sure the guy who pulled the brakes keeps quiet." That night, rain lashed against the hospital windows, the sound sharp and endless. Anna lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heart heavy with fear and disbelief. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw David's face. Calm, smiling, whispering, "Soon, Anna. Very soon." The nurse had dimmed the lights and left hours ago. The hallway outside was quiet, too quiet. Anna could hear the distant hum of machines and the soft beeps marking her pulse. Proof that she was still alive. Though barely holding on, she turned her head toward the flowers David had brought. The white lilies looked too perfect, too deliberate. Her mind whispered something dark. He's not done yet. Suddenly, the door opened. Anna flinched, but it wasn't David. It was Tom. He looked tired, soaked from the rain, but his eyes were full of concern. "Hey," he said gently, closing the door behind him. "I had to see if you were okay." Anna felt a wave of relief so strong it almost hurt. "Tom?" she breathed. "You found me. You saved me." He nodded, stepping closer to her bed. "You're safe now. I told the police everything I saw, but—" his expression darkened. "Your husband's story is convincing. They think you might have wandered onto the tracks yourself." "That's insane," she cried. "Why would I do that? I'm pregnant." "I know," he said, lowering his voice. "But he's got people in his pocket, lawyers, maybe even someone in the department. He's making you look unstable." Anna's chest tightened. "He came here today, told everyone I was losing my mind." Tom clenched his fists. "Figures. Guys like him always hide behind charm." Anna wiped her tears with shaking hands. "What do I do? No one believes me." Tom hesitated. "You have to get out of here, tonight." She stared at him, terrified. "Leave? I can't. I don't even have my phone. David took it." "I'll help you," he said. "I've got a friend, Ethan, a lawyer. He can protect you. But we have to move fast before David realizes you're gone." Anna wanted to believe him, but fear held her down. "What if he finds us?" Tom's voice softened. "He won't, I promise." Her hand found his. It was warm, steady, the first bit of safety she'd felt in days. "Thank you, Tom. I don't even know why you're helping me." He smiled faintly. "Because no one deserves what you went through." Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Deep, deliberate, familiar. David's voice followed, calm but sharp. "I just want to check on my wife." Anna's breath hitched. Tom glanced at the window. Quick, the fire escape. He helped her sit up, careful of her IV line. She winced but nodded. Together, they moved toward the window just as the doorknob turned. "Anna?" David's voice was closer now. "You awake?" Tom pushed the window open. Cold rain splashed in, soaking them instantly. "Go," he whispered. Anna swung her legs over the ledge, clutching his arm for balance. The door creaked open behind them. David stepped in, holding a bouquet and smiling like a loving husband. The room was empty. His smile faded. Out in the storm, Anna and Tom disappeared into the night, unaware that David was already calling someone, saying, "She won't get far this time." The night air hit Anna like ice as she and Tom stumbled out into the rain-soaked alley behind the hospital. Her hospital gown clung to her body, her bare feet splashing through puddles. The cold stung her skin, but fear burned hotter. Behind them, she could still hear David's voice echoing faintly from the hallway, calling her name like a predator stalking its prey. "Keep moving," Tom said, his voice steady despite the storm. He threw his jacket around her shoulders and guided her toward his truck parked a few blocks away. "We're not safe until we're out of the city." Anna gripped his arm tightly. "He'll come after me. He always does." Tom glanced at her, his jaw set. "Then we'll make sure he never finds you again." The drive was silent except for the sound of rain hammering the windshield. Anna stared out at the dark road ahead, exhaustion tugging at her eyelids. "He made them think I'm crazy," she whispered. "He's good at it. He smiles, he lies, and people believe him." Tom nodded. "Men like that think they can buy truth, but truth doesn't stay buried forever." After an hour, they pulled into a quiet neighborhood, a small house with peeling paint and a flickering porch light. "My friend Ethan lives here," Tom said. "He's a lawyer. He's helped women escape worse." Anna hesitated. "I don't want to get anyone hurt." "You already almost died," Tom said softly. "You deserve help." Ethan opened the door before Tom could even knock. He was young, serious-looking, wearing glasses and a hoodie. "You brought her," he said quickly. "Get inside before anyone sees." They entered the dimly lit living room. Ethan locked the door and pulled the curtains closed. "You're safe here, for now." Anna sat on the couch, trembling. "He'll find me," she murmured. "He always finds me." Ethan crouched in front of her. "Not this time. I'll make sure of it." Tom handed Ethan a small flash drive. "The security footage. I managed to get it from the station before they erased it." Ethan's eyebrows shot up. "You're serious?" Tom nodded. "It shows her tied to the tracks. If we can prove David was there, it's over." Anna's eyes widened. "You? How did you get it?" Tom smiled faintly. "I know people who don't like covering up crimes." For the first time in weeks, Anna felt something warm stir inside her. Hope. Real, fragile hope. But that fragile feeling shattered when headlights flashed through the living room window. A car pulled up outside, its engine idling. Ethan stood quickly, peering through the blinds. His face went pale. "It's him." Anna's breath caught. "David?" Tom moved to the window. "How the hell did he?" A loud knock cut through the tension. Then another. "Anna," David's voice called, smooth and terrifying. "Open the door. We need to talk." Anna's hands flew to her belly, her body shaking. Tom whispered, "Don't make a sound." The knocking turned into pounding. "Anna!" David shouted. "You can't hide from me." Ethan grabbed his phone, whispering, "I'm calling the police." Tom pulled Anna toward the back door. Go now. The front door rattled under another heavy blow. As they slipped into the dark backyard, a single thought filled Anna's mind. David wasn't just chasing her. He was hunting her. The cold night air stung Anna's face as Tom led her through the backyard, his flashlight cutting through the rain. Behind them, David's furious pounding echoed through Ethan's front door, followed by his muffled shouts. Each sound drove another spike of fear into her chest. Where are we going? She whispered, clutching her belly. My truck's around the corner, Tom said, scanning the darkness. If we can reach it, we'll lose him on the highway. Ethan followed close behind, holding his phone. I called the police, but they said they'd take a report later. No units are free right now. Tom cursed under his breath. Of course not. Money talks. They rounded the corner, boots splashing in muddy puddles. But as they neared the truck, a pair of headlights suddenly flicked on. The familiar black sedan roared to life. David, run! Tom shouted. The three of them bolted toward the alley, the car skidding and swerving behind them. David's voice carried through the rain. You think you can take her from me, Tom? She's mine. Tom shoved Anna behind a dumpster. Stay down. He turned, pulling a heavy wrench from his jacket, a mechanic's tool, not a weapon, but it would have to do. David stepped out of the car, rain glistening on his coat. His face was eerily calm, a twisted smile playing on his lips. You're a brave man, Reed, but you don't understand what's at stake. I understand enough, Tom said coldly. You tried to kill your pregnant wife. You lost your right to talk about what's at stake. David's eyes darkened. You don't know who you're dealing with. He lunged. The two men clashed in the rain, fists connecting, grunts echoing. Tom was strong, but David fought like a man with nothing to lose. He slammed Tom against the car, his hand gripping his throat. Anna screamed. Stop, please, David. David's grip loosened just long enough for Tom to swing the wrench. It struck David's shoulder, sending him sprawling onto the wet pavement. Tom grabbed Anna's hand. Come on. They dove into the truck. Ethan climbing into the back seat. The tires screeched as Tom floored the gas. David stood in the headlights, drenched and furious, watching them disappear into the storm. Inside the truck, Anna shook violently, clutching her stomach. He'll never stop. He'll find us again. Tom reached over, his hand steady on hers. Not if I can help it. She looked at him, eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. He met her gaze, voice quiet but sure. Because I've seen what real evil looks like, Anna, and I couldn't live with myself if I let it win again. Something in his tone, raw, sincere, broke through her terror. For the first time in what felt like forever, she believed someone truly cared whether she lived or died. When they finally reached a safe distance, Tom pulled over beside an old warehouse. We'll stay here tonight, he said. Ethan and I will take turns keeping watch. Anna nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Thank you, she whispered. Tom smiled faintly. Get some rest, you're safe now. But as she drifted into uneasy sleep, the wind howled outside. Somewhere far off, a car engine started again. And in the storm's echo, it felt like David was still coming. The storm raged through the night, wind howling like a wounded animal. Inside the abandoned warehouse, Anna lay on a pile of blankets Tom had gathered from the truck. The air was cold, smelling faintly of rust and rainwater. Every few minutes, thunder shook the walls. Tom sat nearby, his flashlight flickering. Ethan dozed against the wall, his phone in hand, trying to get a signal. But the storm had knocked everything out. They were completely cut off. Anna clutched her belly, trying to breathe through the cramps that had begun hours ago. At first, they were light, harmless. Now they were sharper, closer together. Tom, she whispered, her voice trembling. Something's wrong. He was at her side instantly. What is it? What's happening? She took a deep breath, her face pale. The baby. I think it's coming. Tom froze, eyes wide. Now? But it's too soon, isn't it? Anna nodded, tears filling her eyes. 7 months, but I can't stop it. Oh God, it hurts. Ethan jumped to his feet, panic in his voice. We need to get her to a hospital. There's no way, Tom said, glancing out at the storm. The roads are flooded, and he's still out there. Anna let out a low cry, gripping Tom's hand with surprising strength. Please, don't let me lose her. Please. Tom looked around desperately, searching for anything. Clean cloths, water, anything that could help. Ethan, find blankets, towels, anything sterile. Ethan ran to the truck. Tom knelt beside Anna, brushing the hair from her face. Anna, listen to me. You've survived worse than this. You can do this. You're stronger than you think. She nodded weakly, breathing hard, trying to focus on his voice. Time lost meaning. The warehouse became a blur of cries, thunder, and whispered encouragement. Tom did everything he could, guided only by instinct and sheer will. At last, after what felt like hours, the sound of a baby's cry broke through the storm. High, fragile, alive. Anna's sob turned into laughter. "She's here," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "My baby's here." Tom held the tiny bundle, wrapping her gently in his jacket before placing her in Anna's arms. "She's beautiful," he said softly. The baby's tiny fingers grasped Anna's thumb, her cries fading into soft hiccups. Anna looked up at Tom, eyes shining. "I'll call her Lily. She's the light that survived the darkness." Tom smiled, exhausted but moved. "Lily, that's perfect." Ethan returned with supplies, his face filled with relief. "Is she okay?" "She's perfect," Tom said, glancing at Anna. "Both of them." Outside, the storm began to calm, the rain easing into a soft drizzle. But the peace was fragile, temporary. Anna looked toward the dark window, her expression turning somber. "He won't stop, will he?" Tom's face hardened. "Not until we make him." Anna looked down at her baby, her voice trembling but firm. "Then I'll fight. For her." Tom met her gaze, a quiet promise in his eyes. "And I'll fight with you." The baby stirred in Anna's arms, peaceful, unaware of the danger still circling outside. And though dawn was breaking, Anna knew the real storm, the one named David, was still coming for her. The next morning, gray light crept through the broken windows of the warehouse. The storm had passed, leaving puddles of rainwater glittering on the floor. The world felt strangely quiet, as if it were holding its breath after the chaos. Anna sat propped against a crate, cradling baby Lily close to her chest. The tiny girl slept peacefully, her breath soft and steady. Anna brushed a trembling finger across her daughter's cheek, feeling a kind of love that erased every moment of pain, at least for now. Tom stood nearby, his jacket soaked, scanning the empty road through the cracked door. "No sign of him," he said, "but that doesn't mean he's gone." Ethan poured hot water from a thermos into a cup and handed it to Anna. "You should drink something. You've lost a lot of strength." She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you for everything, both of you." Tom gave a small smile. "You did the hard part. You brought her into this world." Anna looked down at Lily, tears welling up again. "She deserves a world better than this one." Tom crouched beside her. "She will have one. I'll make sure of it." Ethan cleared his throat, lowering his voice. "We can't stay here much longer. I made some calls. There's a safe place outside the city, run by a group that helps women in danger. They can keep you hidden until we get evidence to take him down." Anna hesitated. "What about my mother? She doesn't even know what's happening. David might go after her." Tom nodded. "We'll send someone to check on her. Right now, your only job is to stay alive." Anna tightened her grip on Lily. "Alive. That's all I've been trying to be since this started." A distant rumble of an engine broke the fragile calm. Tom's head snapped toward the sound. Truck coming up the road. Ethan cursed under his breath, grabbing his bag. "We have to move, now." Tom ran to the truck, starting the engine as Anna climbed in with Lily wrapped tightly in a blanket. The baby stirred, but didn't cry. The moment the vehicle roared to life, Tom slammed the pedal. Mud splattered against the windshield as they sped down the dirt path. In the rearview mirror, Anna caught sight of a black sedan emerging from the trees. David's car. Her blood ran cold. "He found us!" she gasped. Tom gritted his teeth, steering hard as bullets shattered the back window. "Hang on!" The truck swerved, tires skidding through the mud. Ethan ducked, shouting, "He's insane! He's actually shooting!" "Keep Lily down," Tom yelled. Anna bent over her baby, shielding her as glass rained down. They hit the main road, tires screeching. David's car was still behind them, relentless. Tom glanced at Ethan. "Call the cops again." Ethan's voice shook. "They're not answering." "Then hold tight," Tom growled. "We're not dying today." Ahead, a sign appeared, "Welcome to Clearwater." Anna looked up, tears streaming down her face. It was her hometown. Tom's eyes met hers in the mirror. "We're taking you home." As they crossed the bridge into the town, David's car spun out behind them, vanishing into the ditch. For the first time in weeks, Anna allowed herself to exhale. But deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. David would crawl out of that wreckage. He always did. By the time they reached Clearwater, The sun had begun to rise. The sleepy little town looked peaceful. Fishermen setting out to sea, shop owners unlocking their doors, the smell of coffee drifting through the streets. For Anna, it was like stepping into another life, one that felt 1,000 years away. Tom parked the truck behind an old diner near the docks. Anna held Lily close, her heart still racing from the chase. The baby slept, blissfully unaware of the danger that followed her tiny existence. Ethan exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "We lost him, for now." Anna's voice trembled. "He'll come again. He won't stop until we're gone." Tom turned to her. "Then we make sure he doesn't get that chance. We find proof. Real proof. Something the police can't ignore." Anna frowned, exhausted. "Proof? He erased everything. The hospital, the train. He's too smart." Tom shook his head. "Nobody's that smart. There's always something." Ethan nodded. "If we can get access to his office or phone records, there might be evidence, bank transfers, emails, recordings, anything showing intent." Anna hesitated, remembering the house she'd once called home. "His office is in the basement. He always locked it, said it was for work." Tom's gaze hardened. "Then that's where we start." Anna's mother, Margaret, lived on the edge of town. Tom drove there next, keeping to the back roads. When they pulled up, Margaret came rushing out onto the porch, her hands flying to her mouth. "Anna," she cried, tears spilling as she hugged her daughter. "My baby, you're alive. The news said you'd disappeared." Anna clung to her mother, sobbing. "He tried to kill me, Mom. David, he did this." Margaret's face turned pale. No, that can't be true." Tom spoke gently. "Ma'am, I wish it weren't, but it's real, and he'll come looking for her again." Margaret trembled but nodded. "Then you'll stay here. We'll lock the doors. No one will touch you." Later, when Lily was fed and asleep, Anna sat with Tom and Ethan at the kitchen table. The mood was heavy, serious. Ethan opened his laptop. "I found something interesting," he said. "David's company filed a huge life insurance policy under Anna's name, $3 million, signed just 2 months ago." Anna's stomach turned. He planned everything. Tom leaned closer. "That's the motive, but we need to tie him to the murder attempt." Anna rubbed her temples, trying to think. Then she remembered something. He had a call that night. He was yelling at Grace, his secretary. He said something like, "Once she's gone, it all comes to me. I heard it myself." Ethan's eyes widened. If Grace has recordings or emails, that's our smoking gun. Tom stood. "Then we find her." "But she won't talk," Anna said softly. "She's scared of him." Tom gave a grim smile. "Everyone's scared until they have nothing left to lose." Before they could plan further, Margaret's phone rang. She picked it up, her hand trembling. "It's him," she whispered. "David." Anna's heart froze. Margaret pressed the phone to her ear. "You stay away from my daughter, you hear me?" she snapped. There was silence. Then David's calm voice came through the speaker. "Tell Anna I'll see her soon." The line went dead. Tom looked at Anna, his jaw tight. "Then we move tonight." And for the first time, Anna felt the line between survival and justice beginning to blur. Grace called in the late afternoon, voice trembling. She said she couldn't keep living with the guilt. She asked to meet Anna at a small cafe on the edge of town. Anna felt every muscle in her body stiffen. Part of her wanted to refuse, part of her needed answers. Tom drove slowly, parked 2 blocks away, and waited with Lily asleep in the car. Ethan stayed on call, ready to sprint if things went wrong. The cafe smelled of coffee and cinnamon. Grace arrived first, looking different. No makeup, hair pulled back, eyes hollow. She scanned the room, then sat down with hands folded like a woman asking for mercy. Her hands shook as she spoke. "I didn't know how to stop him," she said. "He threatened me. He said if I told anyone, he'd ruin my family. I am so sorry, Anna." Anna felt rage flare, then fold into exhaustion. "Why did you help him?" she asked. "Why tie me to this?" Grace's head dropped. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I didn't tie you. I didn't know how far he'd go. But I know things. I can show you messages. I can show you bank transfers, voicemails. I kept them hidden because I was scared. I can't live with myself." Tom and Ethan watched from a corner booth. Grace slid a small envelope across the table and pushed a flash drive into Anna's hand. "Everything's on there," she whispered. "The plan, the conversations." David's voice. "The night he said, 'Make it look like an accident.' I recorded it. I thought I was helping by keeping quiet. I was wrong." Anna's fingers trembled as she opened the drive on Ethan's laptop. A file named davidplan.wave sat in the folder. Ethan's face was stone when he listened. The recording had David's voice, calm and exact, outlining steps, schedules, and a chilling sentence. "Once she's gone, it's all mine." The hairs on Anna's arms rose. This was the evidence they needed. For the first time since the tracks, Anna felt a sliver of hope so sharp it hurt. "Thank you," she said to Grace, who only nodded and bowed her head. But hope is fragile. Grace's relief was short-lived. As the three of them planned their next move, Grace made one final plea. "You have to promise you'll keep me safe. He will come after me now." They arranged to transfer the files to multiple secure places and to release them to the press if anything happened to Grace. Ethan prepared the legal steps, Tom called in favors to secure witness protection options, and Anna texted her mother to warn her to change routines. It felt like building a shield around a glass heart. They left the cafe in a tense convoy. Tom's truck leading, Anna followed by Ethan's car and Grace in between. Every shadow felt like a threat. Halfway down the main street, Anna glanced up and froze. A black sedan idled at a light ahead. The man behind the wheel looked directly at them. He lifted a hand in slow, deliberate greeting. "David." He knew where they were. He raised his phone and smiled. The signal had been on all along. He wasn't just watching, he was waiting, and his next move would break the fragile shield they had built any second now. Night swallowed the Collins estate, carving the house into deep shadows. Anna stood at the edge of the driveway, wrapped in Tom's old coat, heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her teeth. Ethan crouched beside her, flashlight low, laptop bag slung over his shoulder. The plan was simple. Slip inside, find the office safe, grab any digital evidence, and vanish before dawn. They had to make it quick. Tom's truck idled at the hedge, engine quiet. He watched the house through the trees, jaw tight. "You sure about this?" he whispered. Anna swallowed. "We have to. If Grace's files are real, they'll prove everything. I can't live another day where he smiles and people pity him. I need the truth out." They moved like shadows, skirts and coats muffling their steps. The back door was old and warped, but Ethan had a tool for every lock. He worked with gloved fingers while Anna's hands trembled at his side. The latch clicked. They eased inside, breathing shallow, the house thick with the smell of polished wood and something colder, money, silence, secrets. The house felt alive, listening. Portraits of smiling Collins ancestors watched them move down corridors, and a grandfather clock groaned in the entry hall. Anna pressed herself against the wallpaper, every creak making her flinch. They reached the study at the bottom of the stairs, the room she had never been allowed to enter. David's scent hung in the air, faint cologne, whiskey, a ghost of authority. Ethan knelt by the desk, prying open drawers with surgical precision. "The safe should be behind the bookshelf," he whispered. Anna spotted the shelf mechanism and tugged. It swung inward on a groan, revealing a narrow vault. Inside, rows of labeled boxes and a black case sat like a secret heart. Her fingers closed around the case. The weight of it felt like a promise. Ethan moved to the desktop and pulled up files on the laptop. Video folders, bank statements, emails, all time-stamped. Anna's hands shook as she copied files to the drive. Every second felt magnified. Then a floorboard creaked behind them, loud as thunder. Anna froze. Ethan's eyes widened. Tom's breath hitched in the doorway. Footsteps approached, soft, measured. David was home. Ethan closed the laptop, but not before one line of code flashed on the screen, accessing remote camera feed. A second later, cameras across the estate blinked to life in the corner monitors, panning toward the study. Light flooded the room. A voice cut through the silence, calm and controlled as ever. "I wondered how long it would take you." David stood framed in the doorway, phone in hand, the faint glow outlining his smile. Tom stepped forward, but David's hand lifted and something metallic glinted. Before anyone could move, a gunshot cracked the air and everything went black. Anna tried to cry out, but pain swallowed her voice. Ethan stumbled backward, clutching his side. Tom lunged and collided with the figure at the door, metal ringing between them. In the darkness, something warm and terrible spread across the floor. The world narrowed to a single, impossible heartbeat, and then silence. Silence slammed into the room like a physical thing after the gunshot. For a second, the only sound was the grandfather clock, as if it had swallowed the world whole and kept ticking. Anna's vision swam. Pain flared in her side where she'd hit the desk in the scramble. The world tilted and stung with bright, hot spots. She tasted metal and fear. Ethan fell against a bookshelf, knocking books to the floor. Blood darkened his shirt where he clutched his side, fingers slick. His face was pale with shock. He gasped, and the sentence cut off as he slid down, knees hitting the rug. The laptop rolled away from him. Screen cracked, lights blinking like distant stars. Tom roared, throwing his weight at David. The two men collided in the doorway. Grunts, the rattle of a scuffle, a lamp toppling and shattering into glittering pieces. David fought like a cornered animal, his leather coat flapping, his mouth a hard line. He swung at Tom with wild punches, but Tom's grip found the gun hand and wrenched it. Metal clanged. A shot went wild, smashing a glass frame. Anna pushed herself up on trembling elbows, breath jagged. Her world narrowed to the sounds. Tom's curse, Ethan's cough, the thud of bodies. She tried to move forward, but pain pulled her back like an anchor. Lily's image flashed in her mind. Tiny pink fingers, the way she'd settled against Anna's chest in the warehouse. The thought gave her one jagged, stubborn heartbeat of courage. Tom twisted, finally prying the weapon free. He slammed David into the study chair and pinned him there, breathing hard, phlegm and rainwater and the metallic tang of adrenaline filling the little space between them. David's eyes were furious and ridiculous at once, like a man who'd lost everything but still wanted to control the moment of his own fall. "You're done," Tom spat, cold and final. "You're not touching her again." David laughed once, a sound without humor. "You think this ends me? You think a file and a recording and a dramatic scene will ruin me?" His voice wavered, but the arrogance was a hard shell. "People will pity me. People like me get saved." Ethan grunted, pain twisting his features as he tried to stand. Blood seeped between his fingers. "You're sick," he managed through clenched teeth. "You'll pay." Outside, tires squealed, a distant siren began to wail, and then cut. Too far, too delayed. Maybe someone had called. Maybe David's reach had already started spinning his web. Tom didn't trust the sound. He kept his weight on David, hand tight around the gun. Anna crawled forward on her knees, each inch searing, and reached for Ethan's hand. His grip was weak. Tears blurred her vision. "Hold on," she whispered, though she felt hollow and trembling and strangely detached, like someone watching her life through water. "Hold on for Lily." Ethan's lips moved. "Get proof to the—" He coughed, a wet sound, and his eyes rolled as he lost focus. Tom barked for help, but their phones were scattered or dead, the laptop damaged, the house a mess of overturned furniture and scattered papers. David's jaw worked. He spat blood and laughed, a jagged sound. "You don't know the full plan," he muttered. "I made sure my tracks are covered." His fingers brushed at his wrist where a small remote glinted, something Anna hadn't noticed before. Sweat and blood made the metal shine. Tom's head snapped up. "What is that?" he demanded, and in that moment, David's lips peeled back in a grin like a man with a last card. He pressed the remote, and somewhere in the house, something began to move. A low hum vibrated through the floorboards after David pressed the remote. For a split second, no one moved. Then the sound grew louder, mechanical, coming from somewhere deep in the house. Tom's eyes darted toward the hallway. "What did you do?" he barked. David grinned through split lips. "Insurance," he said hoarsely. "If I go down, everything goes with me." A crash echoed from another room, metal scraping, a hiss like gas escaping a valve. The air shifted, sharp and chemical. Ethan coughed, eyes watering. He rigged the place. Tom shoved David hard against the desk, gun still in hand. "Turn it off." David only laughed, blood pooling between his teeth. "You think you can threaten me? I built this house. Every inch of it obeys me." Anna's body moved before her brain could. She crawled toward Ethan, who was growing paler by the second, leaving a faint smear of blood behind him. "Tom, we have to get him out," she said, voice breaking. "Please." Tom's gaze flicked between the door and David. He couldn't leave her alone with this monster. "Anna, go. Get outside." She shook her head. "Not without you." Tom's face hardened. "You have Lily waiting for you. Move." The gas smell thickened, stinging her lungs. Somewhere upstairs, a faint ticking joined the hiss, steady, cold, rhythmic. A timer. Anna forced herself up, gripping Ethan's arm, dragging him inch by inch toward the hallway. He groaned in pain, whispering, "Don't leave him alone with David." Tom heard it too. He pulled David up by the collar, slamming him into the wall. You want to be a god in your own house? Fine, but you'll die in it if you don't tell me where the shutoff is." David's eyes gleamed with wild satisfaction. "It's poetic, isn't it? She burns like she should have on those tracks." Tom punched him hard, the impact echoing like thunder. David's grin cracked into a snarl, blood spilling from his mouth. "You can't save her. You can't save anyone." Tom's jaw clenched. "Watch me." He ripped the remote from David's hand and tossed it across the room. The older man lunged after it, but Tom kicked him back. Anna grabbed Ethan's phone, trying to call for help, but there was no signal. Smoke began curling along the ceiling. The air shimmered with heat. Anna could feel it burning her throat, the baby's tiny cries from memory mixing with the sound of fire alarms screeching to life. "Tom!" she screamed. "We have to go." He looked back, eyes locking with hers, steady, determined, full of something that felt like a promise. He dragged David by the arm, half carrying, half forcing him down the hall. "You're coming with us. You're going to face what you did." They stumbled toward the exit, coughing. The front door burst open to rain-soaked air, the storm having returned. Anna fell onto the porch, clutching Ethan as Tom shoved David outside and collapsed beside them. Behind them, flames began licking the windows, growing fast. David lay on the ground, gasping, coughing smoke. His voice came out broken. "It wasn't supposed to be this way. I just wanted her gone. Grace, she was supposed to." Anna froze. "Grace?" David's eyes darted to her, regret flashing for the first time. "She tried to warn you. I found out. She's gone now." Anna's stomach twisted. "What did you do?" David coughed, laughing weakly. "She was weak, just like you." Tom's hand tightened into a fist, but Anna stopped him. "No, let him speak." David looked up at her through the rain, his voice barely a whisper. "You can take my money, but you'll never erase me." Tom stood, pointing the gun at him. "You already erased yourself." Behind them, the house exploded, fire and light swallowing the night as Anna screamed, clutching her baby's name to her heart. The blast threw them all to the ground. A wave of heat seared Anna's face as the mansion behind them erupted into an inferno, flames curling into the sky like a monster finally unleashed. The rain hissed against the fire, but it couldn't kill it. The house that had once symbolized everything David owned, his power, his control, was now collapsing into ash. Tom staggered to his feet first, coughing hard. He looked back at the wreckage, then down at Anna, who was clutching Ethan's hand, blood smeared across her face. "You're okay," he said hoarsely. "You're both okay." Anna blinked through tears, the roar of the fire filling her ears. "Ethan, he's hurt bad." Ethan's face was pale, his breath shallow. "Get Grace's files," he murmured. "You still have the drive?" Anna felt her pocket, relief flooding through her when she touched the small flash drive Grace had given her. "I've got it. It's all here." Ethan smiled faintly, his lips streaked with blood. "Then it's over." But it wasn't. A cough came from behind them. David was still alive. He crawled across the wet grass, half-burned, clothes shredded, his body shaking. His face, once handsome and smug, was now twisted with pain and fury. He looked like a ghost crawling out of hell. Tom stepped forward, gun raised. "Stay down, David." David laughed, a broken sound that ended in a wheeze. "You think you don't understand. You don't understand. People like me never lose. The system, it's mine." Anna's voice rose above the storm. "You murdered Grace. You tried to kill me and our daughter. You'll rot for this." David's bloodshot eyes found hers. For a flicker of a second, there was something almost human. Fear, maybe. Then it vanished, replaced by the same cold arrogance. "You wouldn't be here without me, Anna. You're nothing without me." Tom moved between them. "She's everything without you." David's sneer twisted into rage. "You took my wife, my money, my name. You think that makes you the hero? You're just a mechanic. You'll always be dirt." Tom didn't flinch. "Then I guess dirt's better than a monster." David reached into his coat, and for one horrifying moment, Anna thought he still had a weapon. Tom's finger tightened on the trigger, then David stopped. His hand trembled, empty. He laughed again, weak and low. "Go ahead. Kill me. Be the man she wants you to be." Tom hesitated, gun shaking in his grip. Rain poured down harder, steam rising from the burning mansion behind them. Anna crawled closer, voice raw. "No, Tom. He doesn't deserve an easy end. Let the world see what he really is." Tom's jaw clenched. After a long breath, he lowered the gun. "Fine, but he's going to answer for everything." Ethan's phone buzzed weakly in his pocket. He lifted it with shaking hands. "Police? They're coming," he whispered. Sirens echoed in the distance, real this time. Red and blue lights flickered through the smoke as paramedics rushed toward them. David slumped onto the wet ground, his strength finally gone. He whispered something that only Anna could hear. "You'll regret surviving me." She looked down at him, tears mixing with rain. "No, David, surviving you is the best thing I've ever done." As officers cuffed him and dragged him away, the flames behind them roared louder, consuming the last of the man who thought he owned everything. And as Anna clutched Lily's photo to her chest, she knew the trial ahead would be brutal. But this time, the truth was finally on her side. 3 months later, the courthouse in Clearwater was packed. Reporters crowded the marble steps outside, cameras flashing with every passing second. The story had spread everywhere. Business tycoon accused of attempted murder on pregnant wife. It had become national news. Inside the courtroom, Anna sat at the plaintiff's table, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She wore a simple navy dress and no makeup. She didn't need theatrics. The truth was her armor now. Tom sat beside her, jaw set, watching David's defense team file in with their sleek suits and smirks. At the other table, David Collins looked nothing like the man he once was. His hair was gray at the edges, his skin pale from months in custody. Yet his arrogance clung to him like a shadow. When their eyes met, he smiled faintly, as if daring her to flinch. She didn't. Ethan, his arm still bandaged from the wound, stood to represent Anna as her counsel. "The defense will claim this is all a misunderstanding," he whispered. "But we have more than enough proof. Just breathe, Anna." She nodded, glancing toward the back of the room where her mother held baby Lily. The little girl's soft coos reached Anna's ears, grounding her in a way nothing else could. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. "Court is now in session," the bailiff announced. Ethan began with quiet confidence. He presented the flash drive Grace had given them, the recordings, the insurance papers, the bank transactions, each piece like a brick forming an unbreakable wall. The jury leaned in closer with every word. When David's voice played from the speakers, cold, deliberate, "Once she's gone, it's all mine," a collective gasp filled the courtroom. Anna's eyes burned, but she held her composure. The defense tried everything. Claims of mental instability, suggestions that Anna fabricated evidence, even accusations that Tom had coerced her. But none of it stuck. The truth was too heavy, too clear. When it was David's turn to testify, his charm returned like a practiced act. "My wife was struggling emotionally," he said smoothly. "She was paranoid. She believed I was having an affair, plotting against her. I only ever wanted to help her." Ethan rose, eyes sharp. "Help her? By tying her to train tracks?" A murmur rippled through the courtroom. David's composure faltered for a fraction of a second. "That's absurd," he said, his tone clipped. Ethan pressed play again. The recording of Grace's voice filled the room. "David, this is too far. She's pregnant." And then his chilling reply, "Accidents happen." The silence that followed was suffocating. David's mask finally cracked. Anna's tears fell quietly as she looked at him, not out of pity but release. "You almost took everything from me," she whispered under her breath. When the jury returned, time itself seemed to hold still. The foreman stood. "We find the defendant guilty on all counts." Gasps, applause, cries, it all blurred. Anna closed her eyes, her body trembling with the kind of relief that felt unreal. David's jaw tightened as officers stepped forward with handcuffs. He turned once, locking eyes with her, venom in his voice. "You think you've won? You'll never escape my shadow." Anna lifted her chin. "I already did." As they led him away, the courtroom lights seemed brighter, the air clearer. And when Tom wrapped his arm around her, Anna finally let herself cry. Not from pain, but from freedom. The verdict should have ended everything, but David wasn't finished. The next morning, his legal team filed an appeal, claiming fabricated evidence, manipulation, and a biased, emotional jury. The news channels exploded with headlines. "Collins case reopens, truth or media trap?" Anna watched it unfold from her mother's living room, Lily asleep in her arms. Every word on TV felt like another wound reopening. "He's still controlling the story," she whispered, "even from a cell." Tom stood by the window, fists clenched. "He's desperate. A man like that can't accept defeat, but he's not walking free, not this time." Ethan arrived soon after, carrying a thick folder. He looked exhausted but focused. "The appeal will go to the state court," he said. They're calling for a hearing next week. David's lawyers claim one of the recordings was tampered with. If they succeed, the case could unravel. Anna's stomach dropped. They can't. That recording is real. Grace died because of it. Ethan nodded grimly. I know, but we need something stronger, something the defense can't twist. Tom spoke quietly. The train cameras. Anna turned toward him, hope flickering. You mean the night he tied me there? Tom nodded. Railway protocol keeps long-term backups in a secure database. I couldn't access them before because the company was under investigation. But I have a contact, someone who might help now. It was a faint chance, but it was all they had. Over the next few days, Tom and Ethan worked around the clock, making calls, submitting requests, waiting for a miracle. Anna barely slept, haunted by the idea that David could somehow escape justice. Then, on the morning of the new hearing, Tom burst through the door, eyes wide with adrenaline. They found it, he said, breathless. The footage, the full version, uncut. Anna's hands trembled as she took the flash drive from him. What's on it? Tom's voice softened. Everything. The train's exterior camera caught him walking away from you that night. The timestamp matches the exact second you were rescued. Anna's throat closed. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Then it's over, she whispered. At the courthouse, the tension was unbearable. David sat at the defense table, suit crisp, smirk returned. He looked confident until the judge granted Ethan's request to introduce newly recovered video evidence. The screen flickered to life. The courtroom went silent. There was David, illuminated by the train's headlights, tying a figure, Anna, onto the tracks. The angle was distant but unmistakable. His face, his stance, the way he looked down and said, "You made this choice, Anna." Then, the footage of Tom sprinting toward the train, pulling the brake, cutting her free. The video ended in static. David's expression drained of color. His attorney's mouth fell open. Ethan's voice was steady. Your Honor, this was pulled from the original railway archives, verified by the Transportation Board. No tampering. No edits. The judge's gavel hit once, the sound echoing like thunder. This court hereby upholds the original guilty verdict. The appeal is denied. David erupted, shouting, "You set me up! You're all lying!" Officers restrained him as he fought the cuffs. Anna stood, holding Lily's photo to her heart. Her voice was calm, clear. The truth set me free, David, not lies. As he was dragged away, the crowd erupted into applause. And when Anna turned to Tom, his smile said what words couldn't. This time, the past had finally let her go. The prison gates closed behind David Collins with a metallic clang that echoed like judgment. Cameras flashed from beyond the fence as reporters shouted questions he no longer had the power to silence. His designer suit was gone, replaced by an orange jumpsuit and cold iron cuffs. His face, once the face of confidence and control, was now pale, drawn, hollow. Inside, the world was smaller. Concrete walls, the smell of bleach and regret. Other inmates watched him with curiosity, whispers following him down the hall. That's the guy who tried to kill his wife, the millionaire with the pregnant lady on the tracks. David kept his head high, pretending not to hear, but the whispers cut deep. He used to command boardrooms. Now he was a ghost in a cage. Weeks passed, then months. The lawyers stopped calling. The reporters stopped writing. Grace's name haunted his sleep, sometimes her scream, sometimes her silence. When he closed his eyes, he saw Anna's face under the train's light. The moment she realized he wasn't bluffing, he thought he could erase her. Instead, she'd erased him. Meanwhile, outside those gray walls, Anna was rebuilding her life piece by piece. Her mother's cottage had become her safe haven. Baby Lily grew stronger every day, her laughter filling rooms once meant for mourning. Tom visited often, helping with repairs, fixing fences, reading bedtime stories when Anna was too tired to move. Their bond grew quietly, built not on adrenaline but understanding, two souls who had survived the same storm. But sometimes at night, Anna still woke from nightmares, David's voice whispering, "You'll regret surviving me." When that happened, Tom would be there, his steady hand grounding her back to the present. "He's gone," he'd whisper. "He can't hurt you anymore." And for the first time, she believed it. Inside the prison, David learned what real silence felt like. No phones, no assistance, no control. He was nobody now, just another number. The world had moved on without him. One day, a guard tossed an envelope through the bars. "Mail for you." David opened it slowly. It was a newspaper clipping, a photo of Anna holding Lily outside the new community center she'd founded. Lily's Hope, helping women rebuild after abuse. He stared at it for a long time. There she was, smiling, surrounded by people, happy, free. He felt something twist inside him, something sharp and sour. It wasn't love, it was loss, the realization that the woman he'd tried to destroy had become untouchable. A small note was attached to the clipping, written in clean, looping handwriting. You taught me what darkness looks like, so I built a light big enough to outshine it. Anna. David crushed the paper in his hand, trembling. She'll forget me, he muttered. She has to. But deep down, he knew she wouldn't. Not because she loved him, but because she had turned his cruelty into her strength. That night, lying in his bunk, he stared at the ceiling, whispering to no one. It should have been me with the baby. It should have been me with the life. The cell light flickered once, and in the faint glow, his reflection in the window looked older, smaller, like a man fading from his own story. And miles away, under the same pale moon, Anna kissed Lily goodnight. Unaware that the man who had once tried to end her life was now living his own private death behind bars. A year had passed since the trial, but for Anna Collins it felt like an entire lifetime. The scars, both seen and unseen, had started to fade. The storm that once defined her life had finally calmed into a quiet sunrise. She stood before a crowd outside a new white brick building, the sign above the entrance freshly painted. Lily's Hope. A shelter for women starting over. Reporters and townspeople gathered as Anna adjusted the microphone, her hands steady. Behind her, Tom stood holding baby Lily, who wore a pink dress and waved her tiny arms at the cheering audience. Anna took a deep breath. A year ago, I was a woman who believed her life was over, she began. I was scared, broken, and convinced that love only came with pain. But then, something incredible happened. A stranger pulled the brake. A hush fell over the crowd. Tom looked down, a quiet smile on his face. That moment didn't just save my life, Anna continued. It reminded me that kindness still exists, even in the darkest places. And today, I want to give that hope to others, to every woman who's ever been told she's worthless, powerless, or trapped. You are not alone. You can rise again. Applause swelled like a wave. Tears shimmered in the eyes of women standing in the front row. Some survivors, some still healing. Anna stepped down, and Tom handed Lily back to her. You did it, he said softly. Anna smiled, tears in her eyes. No, we did. The rest of the day was a blur of hugs, photos, laughter. Children ran through the yard while volunteers showed visitors around the shelter. In the office, framed on the wall, hung the first donation receipt, the very money Anna had once hidden for her escape, now used to help others escape theirs. Later, as the sun began to set, Anna and Tom walked by the water, Lily sleeping peacefully between them in her stroller. The air smelled of salt and freedom. Do you ever think about him? Tom asked quietly. Anna's steps slowed. Sometimes, she admitted. Not with anger anymore, just understanding. David taught me what I never want to become. He tried to destroy me, but in a strange way, he built this. She gestured to the glowing lights of the shelter in the distance. Lily's Hope wouldn't exist without that pain. Tom nodded, admiration softening his features. You turned ashes into something beautiful. Anna laughed gently. Maybe that's what survival really means, turning what was meant to bury you into the ground you grow from. They stopped at the pier, the ocean stretching endlessly before them. Tom took her hand, warm and certain. You deserve peace, Anna, and love. Real love. She looked up at him, eyes glistening. I think I finally know what that means. He leaned in, brushing a kiss against her forehead. It wasn't rushed or desperate, it was steady, healing, true. As night fell, the lights from Lily's Hope reflected across the water like stars. Anna closed her eyes, whispering a prayer of gratitude for the life she'd almost lost, and the new one she'd built from its ruins. Far away in a cold prison cell, David Collins lay awake, haunted by the same moonlight. But for Anna, that light no longer meant fear. It meant freedom. 2 years later, the sunrise over Clearwater Bay looked different, softer, brighter, alive. Waves brushed gently against the sand, and gulls circled lazily overhead. Anna Collins stood barefoot by the shore, her white dress fluttering in the wind as she watched her daughter chase seashells near the waterline. Lily's laughter echoed through the morning air, pure and unbroken. Behind them, Tom carried a picnic basket, smiling at the sight of the two people who had become his family. He looked at Anna the way a man looks at something sacred, not out of ownership, but gratitude. "Hard to believe this is the same woman who once hid from the world," he said teasingly, walking up beside her. Anna smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "She's gone," she said softly. "I buried her the day the truth came out." Tom slipped an arm around her shoulders. "Good, because the woman standing here now is unstoppable." Anna leaned into him, breathing in the calm scent of sea salt and morning air. "You were the first person who saw me as more than what I'd survived," she said. "You didn't save me because I was broken. You helped me remember I was whole." Tom kissed her forehead. "You saved yourself, Anna. I just pulled the brake." Her laugh was quiet, full of peace. They sat together on the blanket, watching Lily build a small sandcastle decorated with seashells. Anna helped her shape the towers, showing her how to pat the edges firm. "There," she said. "Now it's strong enough to stand against the tide." Lily beamed. "Like us?" Anna's heart swelled. "Exactly like us." A few feet away, Tom set down a small wooden box. Inside lay something simple, a ring of silver with a single blue stone that caught the sunlight like a drop of sky. He knelt beside her, heart pounding. "Anna Collins," he began, his voice soft but certain. "You've been through fire, and somehow you still bring light. You've rebuilt your life, and I've been lucky enough to stand beside you while you did. So will you let me keep standing there, as your husband?" For a moment the world held still. The waves seemed to pause, the gulls silent. Anna's hand flew to her mouth, eyes filling with tears. She nodded, voice trembling. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Lily clapped her little hands. "Mommy's getting married!" Tom slipped the ring onto Anna's finger, and she kissed him, the ocean breeze wrapping around them like a blessing. It wasn't dramatic or grand, it was real, quiet, healing. Later that evening they returned to Lily's Hope, where women gathered in the courtyard with candles, celebrating new beginnings. Anna spoke once more, her voice steady and full. "We can't change our past," she said, "but we can build something beautiful from it. Pain is not the end, it's the beginning of strength." Applause filled the air as Tom lifted Lily onto his shoulders. The three of them watched the lanterns float into the sky, tiny stars carrying wishes for every woman who'd ever been told she couldn't start again. And far away, in a silent prison cell, David Collins stared at the same sky through barred glass. His world was gray and shrinking. Hers was limitless and alive. Anna took Tom's hand and whispered, "This is our new dawn." The woman who once lay tied to the tracks now walked freely toward the horizon, unbroken, fearless, and finally home. So that's how our story ends, my dear friends. You're still here, aren't you? If you've stayed with me until this moment, it means something in this story has touched your heart. Maybe a whisper of strength, maybe a reminder that healing is possible. Anna's journey isn't just fiction. It's proof that no matter how dark life gets, you always have the power to rise again. As the Stoics say, what stands in the way becomes the way. Every wound can turn into wisdom if you choose to grow from it. So tonight, take a breath. Forgive what hurt you. Believe that your story can still change. And if Anna's courage spoke to you, share this video with someone who needs hope. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with us, because together we'll keep finding light in the darkest places. You're not alone. You never were.